The dust motes, like tiny, forgotten stars, danced in the single shaft of sunlight that dared to pierce the grime of your windowpane. You watched them, Marcus, from the depths of a worn armchair, a relic as bruised and faded as your own spirit. Each breath was a slow, deliberate act, a testament to the heavy air of disillusionment that had become your constant companion. The badge, once a gleaming emblem of purpose, now felt like a phantom weight on your chest, a ghost limb aching with the memory of its loss. Years had passed since the whispers turned to shouts, since the gavel's final, damning strike echoed through the hollow chambers of your career, yet the taste of ash remained. You were a man adrift, anchored only by the specter of Elara Vance, the brilliant journalist whose unsolved murder had fractured your world. Her face, vivid in your mind's eye, was a silent accusation, a question mark etched into the fabric of your identity. You'd failed her, failed yourself, and in that failure, you'd found a desolate kind of peace, a withdrawal from the world that had cast you out. Then, a knock. Sharp, insistent, a jarring intrusion into the quietude of your self-imposed exile. You didn't expect visitors. Not anymore. The world had long since forgotten Marcus Thorne, or so you believed. You opened the door to a figure in a tailored suit, a man whose eyes held the cool, detached gaze of someone accustomed to power. He didn't introduce himself, didn't need to. His presence alone spoke volumes. Marcus Thorne, he stated, his voice a low thrum that seemed to vibrate with unspoken authority. You're a hard man to find. You merely raised an eyebrow, a silent challenge. Harder to trust. He offered a thin smile, devoid of humor. Perhaps. But necessity often overrides such luxuries. We have a proposition for you. A unique opportunity. He paused, letting the words hang, laden with unspoken meaning. It concerns a cold case. One you might recall. Your jaw tightened. New information has surfaced. Information that implicates significant figures. He produced a slim, leather-bound folder, its edges crisp and unmarred, a stark contrast to the dust and decay of your apartment. We believe you are uniquely positioned to revisit this investigation. To see what others missed. He spoke of redemption, of a chance to mend the fractured pieces of your past, but you heard only the echo of Elara's name, a siren song pulling you back into the treacherous waters you'd sworn to avoid. You stood there, the weight of the moment pressing down, the man in the suit patiently awaiting your decision. The silence stretched, thick with unspoken history. Why me? You finally asked, the words raspy and used. Marcus Thorne am discredited. A ghost. Precisely, he said, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. Ghosts move unseen. And the stakes are higher now than you can imagine. This isn't just about a murder, Marcus. It's about who we are, as a nation. About the very identity we project to the world. He pushed the folder into your hands. Read it. Then tell me if the ghost of Elara Vance allows you to refuse. The folder felt heavy, a physical manifestation of the unresolved grief and guilt that had been your constant companions. You opened the file, the scent of old paper and new secrets filling the air. Elara's photograph stared back at you, her intelligent eyes brimming with a life brutally extinguished. You scanned the summary, the familiar details of her demise, then your gaze caught on a newly added addendum. The senator, a man whose public persona gleamed with philanthropic virtue, now stood under a shadow cast by the ghost of a journalist. The ghost of Elara Vance did not allow you to refuse. You found yourself standing before the skeletal remains of Elara Vance's apartment, the yellow tape long gone, but the spectral echo of the crime still clinging to the air like dust. The landlord, a stoic woman with tired eyes, had given you access, recognizing the old, haunted look in your own gaze. Another one trying to make sense of it, she'd muttered, handing you a rusty key. But you weren't looking for furniture, you were looking for ghosts. The original investigation had been thorough, but hurried, pressured to close quickly. A random act of violence, they'd called it. You'd always known it was more. You remembered Elara's meticulous nature, her habit of leaving breadcrumbs. He was a journalist, a storyteller, and he would have wanted her final story to be told. You focused on the small details, the things easily overlooked. A loose floorboard near her writing desk. You knelt, the creak of your joints protesting, and carefully pried it up. Beneath, nestled in a cavity, was a small, leather-bound notebook, water-damaged but remarkably preserved. Its pages were filled with Elara's tight, precise script, a chaotic jumble of names, dates, and cryptic notes. One phrase, underlined multiple times, caught your eye: Stone's Haven. Watch the harvest. SG connections to migrant flow. Stone's Haven. The name resonated with an unsettling familiarity. You'd heard it before, years ago, in the periphery of another case, one you'd dismissed as unimportant, a footnote in your own downward spiral. You knew you needed to talk to someone who remembered the old days, before your fall. You drove to the precinct, a place that now felt alien, unwelcoming. The sergeant, a burly man named Miller who'd once been your partner, met you with a wary expression in a cramped, windowless office. He'd seen you coming, the news of your return already a ripple through the stagnant waters of the department. Thorne, he grunted, not bothering to rise. Heard you were back. What, cleaning up old messes now? His tone was laced with a resentment that felt as old as your disgrace. Elara Vance. You stated, pushing the notebook across his desk, open to the incriminating page. What do you know about Stone's Haven? Miller's eyes narrowed. His gaze flicking from the notebook to your face. He leaned back, a deliberate act of distancing. Stone's Haven? That was just some old, abandoned facility out in the district. Nothing there. Just a derelict immigration holding place, used for overflow years ago. Closed down now. Or repurposed, you countered, your voice low. Elara thought it was important. And she linked it to SG connections to migrant flow. Does SG mean anything to you? He scoffed. Sounds like crazy talk, Thorne. You know how Elara was. You should leave this alone. Some things are better left buried. He looked at you, a warning in his eyes that transcended mere professional advice. You come poking around, you stir up more than dust. You stir up trouble. Big trouble. What kind of trouble? You pressed. Not just journalists. The kind that makes careers end. You know that better than anyone. He glanced around the office, as if listening for unseen ears. There are forces at play now, Marcus, far beyond anything you ever dealt with. Caldwell's campaign, for example. He's got powerful friends. Friends who don't like old stories resurfacing. His words confirmed your suspicions. It was a live wire, still buzzing with danger, guarded by unseen hands. And now, you were stepping into that light, an unwelcome ghost returned to haunt the living. The SG in Elara's notebook, combined with Miller's veiled warnings about Senator Caldwell's powerful friends, sent you down a rabbit hole of digital investigation. You spent days hunched over your laptop, a glowing portal into the underbelly of corporate finance and political influence. The Sovereign Group. It wasn't a name you'd heard openly, but its digital footprint was vast and unsettling. A labyrinth of shell corporations, offshore accounts, and philanthropic fronts, all leading back to a central hub that seemed to funnel vast sums of money into Senator Caldwell's campaign. They owned a network of seemingly innocuous businesses, from logistics companies to security firms, and yes, even a few defunct properties that mirrored the description of Stone's Haven. You cross-referenced these terms with her. Previous articles, finding a recurring theme, the plight of undocumented migrants, their vulnerability, and the ease with which their identities could be erased or rewritten. And Stone's Haven, that old immigration detention facility, was more than just a closed-down building. You decided to visit Stone's Haven. The facility was a sprawling complex of low-slung buildings, surrounded by a chain-link fence topped with barbed wire, rusted and broken in places. It had the desolate air of a forgotten place, yet a faint hum of activity seemed to emanate from within, a barely perceptible tremor in the air. You cut through a section of fence, the metal groaning in protest. Inside, the silence was profound, broken only by the crunch of your boots on gravel. The main building, a grim, institutional structure, loomed before you. The interior was a maze of dimly lit corridors, the air thick with the smell of damp concrete and something else, something metallic and faintly sweet, like old blood. Suddenly, a sharp click behind you. The sound of a door locking. You spun around, your heart hammering against your ribs. The service entrance was now securely shut, the heavy bolt thrown. You were trapped. This wasn't an oversight. He wasn't the emissary, but he carried the same aura of calculated menace. He must have been waiting. You're making a nuisance of yourself, Marcus Thorne, he continued, a faint smile playing on his lips. Some things are best left undisturbed. Elara Vance learned that the hard way. What did she find? You demanded, your voice steady despite the tremor in your hands. He chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. More than he should have. More than you will. Consider this a friendly warning. Go home, Marcus. Reclaim your obscurity. Then, from the ceiling, a loud, grating alarm blared, piercing the quiet. Time to leave, he said, his smile widening. Unless you want to explain to the local authorities why you've broken into a decommissioned federal facility. They're very understanding about trespassers, especially ones with your reputation. The threat was clear. He wanted you caught, not killed, not yet. It was a clever play, designed to break your spirit, to remind you of the very downfall you were trying to escape. As the alarm shrieked, echoing through the empty facility, you knew he wouldn't kill you here. Not when discrediting you served a greater purpose. They were watching you, Marcus, a silent, pervasive threat that tightened its grip around your throat. Your identity as a disgraced detective was being weaponized against you, a constant reminder of the fragility of your pursuit of truth. They knew your every move, perhaps even your every thought. The question gnawed at you, how? You returned to your apartment, the alarm's screech still ringing in your ears, the metallic tang of fear on your tongue. You re-examined Elara's notebook, searching for anything you might have missed, any clue to the source of their omniscience. Her notes on identity management and migrant flow kept resurfacing. You remembered the missing migrant family case from years ago, the one that had contributed to your disgrace. A family had vanished without a trace, and you, overwhelmed by personal demons, had dismissed it as a simple border crossing gone wrong, a case quickly overshadowed by the sensationalism of Elara's murder investigation. You had been too blinded by your own internal turmoil to see the connections, too eager to close the file and move on. Elara Vance had been investigating that very family, their disappearance linked to a charitable program run by a newly formed entity, one of the sovereign group's early fronts, which operated out of a temporary holding facility in the very same district as Stone's Haven. Your past failure wasn't just a personal demon, it was a missing piece of Elara's puzzle, a crucial link you had overlooked. The identity of the victims, their forgotten stories, now screamed for justice. The betraying sting came not from a stranger, but from a familiar face. He was now retired, living a quiet life in a suburban home, tending to his rose garden. What brings you out to the land of the living? You sat on his porch swing, the scent of roses cloying in the air. Elara Vance. Stone's Haven. The Sovereign Group. His hand, holding the pruning shears, stilled. It's dangerous, son. Let it go. He was investigating the missing migrant family, you pressed, watching his reaction closely. The ones from the charitable program. The same year Marcus Thorne dropped the ball. He sighed, a heavy, world-weary sound. That was a difficult time for you, Marcus. For all of us. Those cases. They're complicated. The border, the politics. It was messy. Messy, or covered up, you challenged, your voice hardening. Elara linked them to the Sovereign Group. And to Senator Caldwell. You always spoke so highly of Caldwell, Chief. Always praised his philanthropic endeavors. He looked away, his gaze fixed on a distant point beyond the rose garden. Caldwell is a good man, Marcus. A powerful man. About what Elara found. Did you know they were using that facility, even back then, to disappear people? He turned back to you, his eyes clouded with an emotion that looked suspiciously like fear. I knew there were some operations, some sensitive projects. But I was assured they were legitimate. For the greater good. National security, Marcus. That's what they said. It was above my pay grade. Above all of our pay grades. Above mine, certainly, you said, a bitter laugh escaping your lips. But not above Elara's. He was close to exposing it all, wasn't she? Just like the migrants. Just like that family. He rose, his posture stiff, suddenly looking much older. Marcus, you need to understand. There are forces. Powerful forces. They protect their own. They protect their interests. You can't fight them. You'll just get yourself killed, or worse, you'll destroy what little you have left. He laid a hand on your shoulder, his grip surprisingly firm. Walk away, Marcus. For your own sake. For the sake of your identity. The word hung in the air, heavy with unspoken meaning. He wasn't just warning you, He was pleading with you, perhaps even trying to save you from a fate he knew all too well. But in his eyes,